Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance. And this resistance video is a sponsored video sponsored by Chiquita for Layla. And here's Layla's story. Hi, Ollie. I found your channel today and watched several of your videos at once. I had so many light bulb moments during each one that pushed me to write to you my story as I need some advice. I will be making a donation as soon as I can. If any sponsor pops up and you want to make a video, I don't mind you using my name. I'm the eldest of three children and have two younger brothers. I'm the classic scapegoat of my narcissistic mother and father. Everything that goes wrong is my fault. I'm the eldest and should set an example for my brothers. My mother was from South Asia, and her childhood was pretty fucked up. Her father was married 3 times. My grandma was his third marriage. He begged for her hand in marriage after he saw her walking down the street one day and told her family that he had divorced his second wife and had no contact with her. Guess what? He married my grandma, and the second wife walked into the house one day carrying their newborn baby. My grandma lost her mind. He got exposed and said, "Well, I didn't divorce her, but now she has my son. I definitely can't leave her." Turns out that he didn't like his second wife's mother. They argued and she humiliated him publicly, so he swore to get revenge on her. He will remarry a third time to make her daughter suffer. And that's why he married my grandma. When he got exposed, my grandma couldn't leave him, as it was a matter of family honor and pride. She got pregnant with my mother. So he moved both wives into one home. Second wife lived upstairs. Third wife lived downstairs. For those of you who are wondering, this is a Muslim situation. So he alternated nights with each wife. The second wife was clever. She was a lot older than him and knew how to push his buttons, rile him up, seduce him, mess with his mind. My grandma was a lot younger, inexperienced, traumatized, and just wanted to get along. When it was my grandmother's night, talk about an early basis for devaluing, huh? When it was your grandmother's night to be the wife, huh? When it was my grandmother's night, she used to stay up getting ready, cooking food, etc. He would tap on her door and say, "I'm not coming over tonight, go to bed," and he would walk upstairs and fuck the other wife. My grandmother would get rejected like that, her self-esteem shattered, and he would call her dumb. He would say, "Oh, my second wife is one of a kind. She can say one thing and get me going. She's a very experienced woman." Both wives had kids competitively. They wanted boys. My mom was born first. She hated her father. All she saw was the second wife starting some argument, and my grandfather would beat her over it. My grandmother would be minding her own business, and he would run over to her and say, "You are gloating because she's getting a beating," and start beating her as well. My mother would jump in and say, you are fucking evil and just a dick." Keep in mind, this was in Pakistan. She's lucky she didn't get killed. Fucking flat gnats. This was in Pakistan, and my mother was born in 1955, so for a girl to speak out to her father like that was shocking. There was a constant abuse in the house. The second wife would cause it. I mean, after all, she was rejected. A younger third wife was brought in, and now she wanted revenge. The abuse was transferred onto the kids. One example is my mother and her stepbrother playing with a female dog and her puppies. They were little kids, had no idea what they were doing, so they got a rope and pretended it was a leash and began tying it to the puppies' necks and dragging them, pretending they were walking them. The puppies got strangled and died. My grandfather found out and put some rope around their necks and dragged them around asking, "How do you like that?" He was choking and beating them over it. He would do homework with them, and for each question they got wrong, he would smack them so hard they felt dizzy. Wow, So they use my mother's techniques for helping for homework in Pakistan. Good to know. Good to know. Congratulations, mother. You used the Pakistani Muslim method of education. My mother said it was good. It helped them remember. After a while, the abuse towards my grandmother escalated more and more. So one day, my mom locked herself in the kitchen, poured oil all over herself, and threatened to burn herself alive. She's lucky the grandfather didn't just strike the match, knowing how they treat women over there. They got into the room and stopped her, but she ran away and lived with her grandma and planned on getting her family out of that village. She never called her father father. She called him by his name for many years. He begged her to come home. She refused. She became the rescuer. She studied, became a teacher. At night, she would sew clothes under the candlelight and send them to her younger siblings. Her grandma's house was a small patch of land. My mother began gathering bricks and equipment that was left all over from construction sites, and with her little hands began laying bricks and building a 2-bedroom house. So when her mother and siblings come to visit for family holidays, they would stay there and eventually move there. That's exactly what ended up happening. Sounds like a powerful woman, right? For all the things she did, the abuse and hatred she felt got transferred onto me. She married my father, came over to England, and he was a drunk. He would stay up all night drinking with his friends, yet she was very religious. He would come home and slap her around if she spoke back to him. He was a classic narcissist with mommy issues too. He was the only son, middle child, with 2 sisters. Got away with murder. Expected her mother-in-law and sister-in-law, expected her to do all the work in those days. Yeah, because the father was the son husband to the mother and the 2 sisters, I imagine. When I was born, my grandma and aunts treated me like a doll. I was the firstborn, and I looked so much like my father, but my mother hated me. She had trouble nursing me, so I was given bottled milk. She also used this against me, saying, "See, you were denied my milk, and everyone knows all the normal kids are breastfed. Your 2 brothers were, and they are amazing. It's just you. You are cursed because you were denied your mother's milk." Also, the first person to feed me was a nurse at the hospital who apparently was very argumentative and rude to people. It's believed in my mother's religion that the first one to feed the baby is key because it was affect the child energetically. It's a special thing. So she said, "See, that crazy nurse fed you, and you are exactly like her." Well, they will project their shit onto anybody, huh? My mother has been abusive since as far back as I can remember. My earliest memory is being 6 years old and playing around in the attic finding some loose coins. I wasn't allowed any pocket money. Whenever I asked for sweet money like all the other kids, I was always told no. I know what that's like too. They could afford it, but they always said no. Same here, which is the worst. I mean, you don't want to cry if you have money. Poor you weren't given money for candy. But it sucks when you're the only one and you know it can be afforded. And the only reason you're made to go without is out of some type of cruelty. And that'll it's just as detrimental. So when I found some coins in the attic, I went to the shop and bought some sweets. She found out and went ballistic, told me I'm cursed, evil, and I will go to hell because that was charity money she put aside each month. And the fact that I stole it means I was pure evil. I will never ever be happy and will always fail at everything because I am cursed for eating charity money. She shook me, pulled my cheeks, hair, and slapped me. I didn't even know what charity was. I was 6 years old. Even at lunchtime, I remember coming home from school and on break watching Sesame Street. She would walk in and say, "Oh, look, Miss Piggy, you look just like her. Look at your pig nose." And I would hide my face and cry on the couch. She would tell me that she is not my mother. Your mother is such and such a woman. She would sat this repeatedly she would say this repeatedly until she got a reaction. I would cry and she would smile, looking straight at me. This is the only time she physically enjoyed my tears and reacted with a smile. Other times I would cry and she would cover my mouth with her hand, shouting, "Don't you dare hold your breath. Don't you dare cry." This became a habit where I didn't need her to cover my mouth. Each time I would cry in private, I would cover my own mouth and say the same things to my own self and choke back the feelings, and eventually began binge eating, eating away my emotions and starving myself to make up for the guilt. At nighttime, she would tell me that one day the world is going to end and it will be called the Day of Judgment. You will be standing in line with your scroll of deeds, and if you lie, you will go to hell. God will judge you. You will look for me, but you will not find me. You will be all alone. Imagine. This was our bedtime story. And that was your mother making herself more powerful than God. Because that's what these quote-unquote religious narcissists do. So whether it's Catholicism, Judaism, Islam, these people who you claim are so religious are fucking atheists. Because when they talk about religion and God, they're talking about themselves. You took her charity money. She decides you go to hell because you sinned against her. So you have to go with the premise of the religious narcissist believing. They don't believe in God. They believe they're God. Randomly would be sitting down and all of a sudden she would ask Layla, "What if you got married when you grow up and your husband kills you? What am I going to do? I would be so scared." She always wanted me to chase after her, break my back by seeking her approval and affection. Like a god, Layla. Like a god. And instill fear of men inside me from early on. Sounds like religion to me. I had 7 male cousins from one aunt who would come over every summer. No one cared that we all slept together. The older cousins were in their early teens. One day, the second eldest cousin locked me in a room and molested me. He laid me down and began doing things. I had no idea what was going on. I was 6 years old. I just pretended to be asleep. After a while, he casually got up, unlocked the door, and left. I was in a weird shock. I knew I couldn't tell anyone, and I knew what happened was wrong, but I also didn't know what happened. I just knew it was dirty. We went to Paris to visit family, and I remember my mother so casually let a grown uncle take me to the shop to get sweets. He would kiss me and molest me outside. And I'm sorry to say this, Layla, this is part of what comes in the culture that you're in. They know it. They set you up for it. I'm sure it happened to your mother and your grandmother as well. That's why they ran. But then they want to sweep it. Don't think they didn't know. They knew. They knew. Of course they knew. They always know. No one knew. And at the time when we were asleep in the room, he would walk in and talk to Mom. The lights would be off so no one saw him. But while he was talking to her, he'd be touching and holding my hands, locking fingers. It's almost like a secret boyfriend-girlfriend thing. Your mother knew. Don't believe your mother didn't know. Don't believe your mother didn't know. It's all part of the sick sexual game. It was like I was acting older than my age. I was very immature because I hung around with older people, my aunt, etc. I didn't misbehave. I communicated maturely, and this dude started acting like my boyfriend. He would get me sweet because in your culture, and especially in Pakistan, marrying young children, and it's accepted. It's accepted. He would get me sweets. He would get me the sweets I wanted and then walk hand in hand with me. I was no older than 7 years old. I remember one night he took me to his apartment and passed me around his friends. They all put me on their lap, touched me, kissed me, passed me around like a doll. My mother didn't think for once, what is a grown man doing, taking my daughter away for hours? Don't be naive, Layla. She knew. She grew up in it. She knew. This didn't come in. These guys didn't come in out of a vacuum. This is what's been when your grandfather had 3 wives, 2 living in one house. He'd go fuck one and not the other. Layla, she knew. My brother was born 5 years after me, and he was light-skinned, a quiet child that did whatever anyone said. Then my youngest brother was born 3 years later. He was a lot like me, but 7 months old. But at 7 months old, he began having epileptic seizures and later on diagnosed with mild autism, as well as being hyperactive. I remember me and the middle brother playing and getting into small fights as kids, and my mother pinning me to the ground in the kitchen on a red laminate floor with a massive bread knife to my neck, about to slit my throat. Are you saying you're going to fight him again? Are you? I said, no, I won't. I'm sorry. And she let me go. I remember thinking, one slip and she would have killed me again. Cultural, with the knives. Holding knives to people's throats. Not that my mother didn't love holding knives to people's throats and mine and threatening to stab everybody and holding a sword to my throat, telling my father, open this door, I'll kill this kid. I get it. I've been there. Been there. Had my mother stand behind a French door with a sword to my neck. With my father on the other side of the French door. Anybody don't know what a French door is? It's a glass door. It's a door with glass panels from floor to ceiling. Usually 4 across, or 3 or 4 across from floor to ceiling. My father was on the other side holding my brother away from as my mother held me hostage with a sword to my neck. Anytime we did anything wrong, we got beat. She would pin all 3 of us down separately and either force a green chili into our mouth or a powdered bitter white turmeric that is worse than chilies. We would be pinned to the floor and she had our arms under her knees, and she would pour. This is when my mother would pin me down with her knees. She would do the same fucking thing. She wouldn't shove things in my mouth. She would just repeatedly just fucking pummel me in the face. And she had our arms under our knees, and she would pour 1 to 2 spoonfuls of this stuff down our throats, followed with a sip of water, yelling, swallow. We could have choked to death as we were flat on the floor or the couch. Nobody knows this side of her. Everybody knows her as a sweet woman who helps everyone, is charitable with money and time. She would give her shirt off her back to help anyone and would never harm a fly. My mother was given child support for us. She also made Christmas crackers at home and did some committee work to get extra money. Christmas crackers. This is getting weirder. My father was a graphics designer and owned his own business, but I was never allowed a penny. I wasn't even allowed to get clothes for PE at school. I had to wear my father's oversized t-shirts and shorts each week when we had PE. I wasn't even allowed money to buy underwear or socks. I had to wear my father's socks. And yet she would allow your uncle to take you for candy she wouldn't let you buy on your own. And you're telling me she didn't know you were getting passed around. Really? You're giving her a lot of benefit of the doubt. And he would yell every morning that his socks go missing. She refused to buy me anything. I had old clothes that were sent from Pakistan or clothes she had sewn. And she would show off that she made them. I remember when I got my first period, I came home. Each time I had my period, I begged my mother to please get me some sanitary towels. She said no. The school should provide you. The school gave me a couple of towels. The school gave me a couple, and that's spoken like a mother collecting child support, isn't it? Not that every mother collecting child. Let me rephrase that. A true narcissistic mother collecting child support for herself and not giving it to her child. That's the attitude. The school gave me a couple towels when I was there, and they found out I got my period, as they did all girls, and gave me some leaflets about period pain. She refused to buy me sanitary towels and underwear, so I went to the toilet. I rolled up some tissue around my hand to look like a sanitary towel and would hold it in place and walk around with it in my thighs squished together, scared of taking long strides in case the paper towel fell out. And it did several times in public. Each time my mother was there and it happened. When it happened, she drew attention to it and called me disgusting and unfeminine. My mother let me know from an early age I wasn't worth a pack of sanitary towels. As I grew up, all I could hear was her sitting downstairs talking to my father about how evil and arrogant I am, that I should be married at 18 years old if I leave, and if I leave to get an education, what will happen to them? The kids were the only thing they had in common, and she was the source of her income. I wasn't allowed to go to the local university because my father said it was low quality and full of Asian kids. I should go to the university his friends' kids went to. So I applied to go to a university out of town. I had to commute every day 4 hours into the pouring British rain. Eventually, I said I wanted to move into the dorms, and my father said if I leave, I'm not allowed to come back, that only whores go to live in dorms, and that he knows the culture. He also wanted me to study teaching, but I chose law, and every single day I would wake up to hear sarcastic remarks about how all Asians in our town are lawyers. It's such a pathetic subject. Anyone could be a lawyer. He wanted me to be a teacher because his father was a professor and wanted him to be a teacher, and he didn't do it due to family responsibilities. All of my family turned against me. They all told me if I go, they are dead to me because they're Muslims or they come from a Muslim area. They don't want you going on. I mean, after sexually abusing you, they're Muslims. This is why. It's the religion. I had no way of keeping up with my studies because they also didn't allow the internet at home. So I had a jack in my uni, and they said, see, she couldn't do it. It was all just an excuse. A couple of years later, I applied to do psychology at the local university, and all I heard from him was how psychologists are dumb and talk shit, that his best friend is a psychologist and he gives her advice. Every day I heard this rant. In the end, I just gave up and became ill due to stress. He also began beating us from a very early age, especially my youngest brother, because he was epileptic from 7 months old. My mother was in and out of hospital. He got the most attention. My mother would sleep with my brother in his room and still does. He's 25 years old now. You still don't think she knew you were getting molested, huh? This is a family secret, and it's not uncommon from the area that they come from, unfortunately. As a child, any little thing he would break, my father would beat him until he couldn't breathe. My brother would end up in a hospital later on that day because the beating would cause a seizure. He would miss days from school, fall behind, feel like a failure. This carried on for years. My mother encouraged it. She said her father beat her, and it's the only way kids learned. Spare the rod, spoil the child. Her sister lived in the same house as us. In fact, her mother came over from Pakistan, moved to England with all her siblings. They all stayed at our house, and every single one of them turned against me. They all fought me, hit me even. She even had her nieces come stay with us from Paris. All she did was say negative things about me, to the point where the girls lost all respect for me. She would humiliate me in public. She would eat dinner with them in a separate room, and I would sit and eat alone and eat. She would wake them and ignore me. take them to college but ignore me. I was always chubby as a kid and looked like my father, not her, and this really got to her. She would even tell everyone very proudly that when she takes her nieces out to go shopping, everyone asks her, "Is that your daughter?" I say no. If you saw my daughter, you would be shocked. My youngest brother liked sitting in my aunt's car. One day she got up to go to work and he wouldn't get out of the car, saying he wants to go with her. My mother went running upstairs to my father and told him that my brother won't get out of the car. He's 4 years old. My father ran downstairs, grabbed my brother out of the car, slapped him, beat him, dragged him into the house by his feet, dragging him on the pavement and garden. I guarantee you, Layla, I guarantee you, at the time this was happening, if your father was white and non-Pakistani or non-Muslim, he wouldn't have gotten away with this. Just my opinion. Would not have gotten away with it. And beating him to a pulp. Everyone was crying. My mother would get him to beat us, and then when he got to the point where it looked like he was going to kill us, she would jump in and say, "Stop it." Boy, does that sound familiar. I just wanted you to scare them a little and then sit and cry and play the victim. I asked her years later, "Why did you make him beat us?" She said, "Because I was scared that if he wasn't beating you, that he would start beating me again." Fuck you, cunt. Fuck you, cunt. I hope that followed with a fucking you beating her ass. The more she beat us, the more she encouraged him. Then said I didn't know it was going to be that bad and we would feel sorry for her. The more my brother was in the hospital, the more time she spent with him. My father was clearly envious of him and the attention he was getting. She would use any excuse to call him dumb, beat him, and slap him around. During this time, I caught my father masturbating in the living room. I walked in, he heard me, and pretended to be asleep. Around the same time, I began noticing when everyone was downstairs, my brother would be in my father's room for a long time. Something was off. My brother would sit in his own bedroom and masturbate for hours and hours and hours, to the point where he would be sweating. We would walk in and say, "Stop it," but we would carry on despite us being there. He was around 8 years old. My parents kept blaming his medication, but it didn't make sense. He had been on it since he was a baby. Why start masturbating now out of the blue? Because your father is fucked up. The whole family is fucked up, and unfortunately you come from a culture where it's not only accepted, a lot of times it's encouraged, and it's certainly not exposed. I recognized something was wrong because I had been triggered early on from my own sexual abuse. Then during the summer, it all became clear. My brother was standing in the backyard looking into the kitchen where me and my mother were. When my father walked in the backyard, it was at an angle where he couldn't see us. The wall blocked him from seeing us. He came in and stood behind my brother and began rubbing his genitals against my brother's butt. Moaning and groaning, my brother stood frozen. All of a sudden, I saw him. So did my mother. But she carried on cooking. Do you still think your mother didn't know that you were getting molested? Do you think your mother didn't just fucking serve you up? She knew the whole time. Because she's saying, as long as it's better him than me. And that's how it works in that culture. All of a sudden I saw him, so did my mother, but she carried on cooking. I started screaming, saying, "What the fuck is he doing?" Then she casually tapped the window, and said, "Oi, what are you doing? Stop it." And my father walked away embarrassed, acting like nothing happened. My brother stood there, frozen, but not in shock. So it was evidence it wasn't the first time this happened. We know, we've heard the stories over here. I know there's a word for it about these Muslim men, fucking boys, where it's acceptable. Another incident similar to this happened where I was walking down the stairs and he saw from the corner of my eye that my brother was on the bed and my father was laying behind him and creeping up behind him. I ran downstairs and told my mother. She said, calm down. So what if they're laying together? I insist she goes upstairs and gets my brother. She did. She told us many years later she hated having sex with him. He would stay out all night drinking, come home and expect sex, and she would deny him as if it was the only control, as it was the only way she could control him and get back at him. Oh, that's great. So he goes and fucks your younger brother. That's wonderful. My biggest regret is not protecting my brother or calling the police. I was too scared. One time I called the police but was too scared to speak. I don't think the cops would have done anything over there because of culture and insensitivity. That's their culture. That's what you would hear. Is it any wonder why women and people are getting raped all over Europe now? Doesn't matter that your family has money and there's something in the culture that runs rampant through your culture. Is it everybody in Islam? No. But it is a big chunk. A big chunk that allows this shit. That brother who he is sexually abusing was so mentally beaten down, he began hiding in his bedroom and he stays in the bathroom for 10 hours a day. He doesn't look at anyone in the eyes. He doesn't speak to anyone except my mother. My mother looks after him. She is his legal appointee, and she has kept him away from us. Each time she sits with him, she talks badly about me every time she sits with him, she talks badly about me and turned him against me. I overheard her saying, look, Layla is 33 years old. She's not so evil. She is so evil not getting married and denying me grandchildren. What, more targets to be molested and raped? Denying me what? More supply? Fuck you. Everyone my age is a grandma except me, and the boys fall for it. The pity party. She gaslights me, saying I will never leave her. Where will I go? I will be the one that stays with her and looks after her, and I flip out because it's like she's saying she doesn't want me to get married or have kids, that my only purpose is to be there for her, and I flip. Then she goes to my brothers and says, see how she yells at me? I'm 62 years old. I have tuberculosis. I have a hip fracture. I work all day to take care of you. And then she yells at me. I get told 50 times a day, overtly and covertly, that had I gotten married earlier, I would have been so much happier and compared to my cousins who all have kids. About 3 years ago, my mother went to Pakistan and found a guy she wanted me to marry. The dude was working in the UAE, and his family were the ones in Pakistan she met. Ali, I kid you not, this dude looked like a pervert and was a pervert. Of course he is. He's in fucking Pakistan. The first day I saw him on Skype, I rejected him. But she became so close to his mother in Pakistan, they called each other practically every single day and became sisters. My mother and father insisted they will never find a family like that, and I should get married immediately. Oh, wow. The best they can find you is a family in terrorist haven Pakistan, where Osama bin Laden was hiding? Really? Really? Pakistan. You grew up in Britain. You got family in France, but they want you to find somebody from Pakistan. Wonder why? Wonder why somebody who's your red flag targeted as a pedophile and a rapist right off the bat. That's not a coincidence. My mother and father presented themselves in the utmost righteous and pure as the driven soul members of society. All that dude's mother, and that dude's mother was all over them, complimenting them on how nice they were every 5 minutes. Their narcissistic, egotistical selves love having egos inflated when people compliment them. It validates their superiority, and they wanted that family as their trophy champions that would come to England and sing their praises to the rest of the community and their own relatives. So they mentally forced me to interact with the family, saying the guy's mother is a widow who raised her kids practically by herself in poverty in Pakistan. No one helped her. Layla, you're so ungrateful. She calls you every day and you ignore her calls. Do you fear God? You are ignoring a widow and rejecting an orphan. Just speak to her. She was baiting me. She knew if I speak to her, that woman will talk me into meeting with her daughter, who is in England, and that's exactly what happened. All of a sudden, a few days later, the guy's sister, who was in our home with presents and a proposal, I knew what was going to happen. I found myself silently suffocating. Now I had met her and spoken to their mom. Their next step was my family insisted I at least meet the guy and go to the UAE since he can't leave the country yet. I said no, I don't want to marry him. He looked like a pervert and called and looked at me dirty. My mother said, how do you know that? You think you're so special you can read people. How can you judge them? Because you got me raped, bitch. Because I know what you people are about. That's why. I wasn't. I was saying how his energy made me feel. They insisted I go to UAE to meet him, saying, just meet the guy. If you don't like him, you don't have to marry him. That's a lie. That's a lie. I knew it was a lie, clearly. So guess what? Somehow we end up on a place, me, my mother, my middle brother, and meet him. The guy and I had nothing in common. He would sit in silence with zero conversation, just looked at me smiling. In the end, my parents made me feel obligated that I met and saw him. I should marry him since we spent so much money coming out there, etc. I fell for it. I said yes. The last day he was with us, I walked outside to where he was to say bye. He grabbed my hand and wouldn't let go. I pulled it away and he ended up swooping his hand across my right breast like it was an accident. No one believed me. I told them. They said I was a liar. Then when I was back in England, he kept messaging me, asking me to come on webcam wearing lingerie so he knows what to expect the wedding night. I flipped out, made him come on voice call and spoke to him, secretly recording him and made him admit everything. I told him to record. I then took the recording and showed it to my parents, who accused me of lying. They said, so what? All men are like that. It's your own fault for talking to him so much. I hardly even spoke to him, but everything got turned around on me. And there it is, Layla and everyone else. There it is. You got him audio recorded. After them calling you a liar, that you got it in his own words, and it just doesn't matter. This is why cutting them out, getting away, going no contact is the only thing you can do. The only thing you can do. Wow, this is long. I'm not even halfway through this yet. I mustered up the strength to say no and cut contact with the guy and his family. Following this decision, my own family stopped talking to me. They told me I was selfish and only cared about my own self. My middle brother, no, they only care about themselves. My middle brother, who I had been close to, my mother began telling him that I was selfish for not getting married. Who else was going to marry me at my age? The fact that I am the eldest and not married, where would you, if you've never even been married, where are you going to get lingerie? The fact that I'm the eldest and not married will affect his chances of getting married. No wife wants an unmarried sister-in-law around. It's like having two mother-in-laws. And then leave, Layla. Then leave. Then you don't need to be around. That's your problem. You don't need to be around. All your problems because you remain engaged with these animals. And my mother would agree with her. He would talk to me about how messed up this guy was and that they wanted me to marry, but then sit with her and listen to her and agree. Every little thing that happened between her and me, she would go and tell him. She openly calls him and my younger brother her husband's sons. She sits him down between her legs, so he sat on the floor and she's on the couch, and gives him an hour-long head messages using head massages using coconut oil. This whole family is disgusting. And he sits there like he's being drugged up, his eyes flipping backwards. He's a son husband. What does he need to get married? He has your mother. He has your mother. What does he need a wife for? He openly asked her about sex, and I was shocked one day. We were sitting together, and he asked my mom about her sex life with my father, saying, "Did you like having sex with him when you were younger, or was it bad?" And she even hesitated to respond when I said, "Dude, that's weird." He said, "Why? Yeah, why? We both had sex with the dude. Let's compare notes." He said, "Why?" We talk openly about this stuff openly. I remember last year, all she was doing was trash talking him to me. She could hear all the way upstairs. And he would agree to everything. He's the golden child, looked like the spit of my father, exactly like, and now has even adopted his mannerisms and subtle nuances that my father has. I never had an argument with him until my mother started getting into his ear the last 2 years after my paternal grandma died. My mom had no one to hang out with, so she started investing in my brother. He is her lapdog, her son husband. Anytime me and my mom had an issue, she runs bad-mouthing me to her, and then 3 days later, he's either arguing with me, telling me I'm a bad daughter, and that bullies her mom, and just stops talking to me and blames me. Last year, he just stopped talking to me for no reason other than my relationship with her. He didn't talk to me for 8 months. I spoke to him, he blanked me. I would walk in the room, he would walk out. The poison she spread inside him was evil. 8 months later, she went to Pakistan for holiday, and before she left, she very proudly told me that my brother is getting married. Then I foolishly initiated contact with him again, and he responded when she wasn't in the country. When my brother cut ties with me over nothing, I was going through so much hell at the time. I told no one I was in a relationship with an older man, a complete narcissist I had attracted. He was over 20 years older than me and was exactly like my father, outwardly into social causes, revolution, spiritual, etc. But a year into the relationship, he insisted I stay over his house with him. Now he knew all about my sexual abuse and insisted, because he was a therapist, he is the only one that can help me if I tell him all the details and send him details about my abuse. He was very secretive and would disappear all of a sudden for a month at a time and not even text me. A month later, he would respond saying he had migraines and had no way of contacting me. I would be panicked and fearful the entire time. But he told me I was not allowed to question him, and I obeyed. Isn't that convenient for the religion? You're not allowed to question him. When are you going to find out about his other family? I'm sure that's coming. I was very proud of the fact that despite being sexually molested, I was still a virgin and protected that from being stolen. I trusted this guy. I was British, South Asian, and he was black. Well, I'm sure that didn't go over well. Because even though you're still the same religion, Muslim, there's a problem with the black Muslims and the Asian Muslims, and they don't like one another at all. At all. He told me he had been in relationships in Pakistan with women before, but never got introduced to their families because he was black. I knew it. Even though those women moved from different cities, uprooted their kids from previous marriages, and left everything to be in London with him, yet their reason to end their relationship was his color. After years of being with him for years, because the families can't handle it. It's a family shame, especially if he's from Africa. Oh yeah. Being white, being American, we're constantly called racist, sexist, Nazi, misogynist. The bigotry that goes on within these other religions is astounding. I don't even know if I'm telling you that's what it is. It wasn't her, it's the families. Probably girls who grew up exactly like you. And I guarantee you, if you talk to these women, they're exactly like you. Same deal, molested by their own families, yada. I promise you that. I promise you that. I've talked to other Muslims like this, and Arab Muslims. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. It's not even a little secret. It's pretty well known, and I've gotten this from other Muslims who subscribe to me. The Arab Muslims and the Asian Muslims have a thing. I'm just going to say it. Have a thing with the black Muslims, and it's all about dick size, believe it or not. And I'm telling you, the Arab men are so individually weak-minded cuckolds in reality. That's where all this rage and beating comes from. Let's read on. I'm telling you, that's where it comes. It's where it all comes from. Because when you get to the heart of it in these cultures, it's all about sex. Willie insisted I stayed for a weekend. I trusted him, so I did. When I did, I saw the real him, yelling, controlling, sarcastic, rude remarks. Then it came to light. He began touching me and yelling and telling me to trust him. He took my virginity, even though I wasn't ready for it. Well, you're not allowed to say no in that religion. He said, he is the man, he is the authority. God made men stronger in all ways because they are not emotional and can make good decisions. I felt used and dirty. He began insisting I introduce him to my parents and prove I'm not a racist. Here it comes. I was confused. Why would I need to prove anything? Obviously, if we were going to be together, I will. But why do I need to prove it? Some days after he took my virginity, I got a text message at 2 a.m. from him saying he has to tell me something, that he was married all along. I'm not laughing at you. I'm just laughing because this is a pattern, Layla. You got to understand, I don't know how you're going to handle this, but I've seen this all before. There's other people that you're probably going to find in the comments thread who share your nearly exact same story. He was married all along. His wife was just living separately, but now wants to be together again, and he wants to make it work for her. That if I want to be with him, I will have to move down to London and get my own house near him, and he will visit me once a week during the day. He won't be able to stay during the nights because of all the work, etc. Wait a minute. I have to move to London, get my own house to be near him if he wants me during the day. He won't be able to stay at night because of all the work, etc. He has like 8 kids from 3 different women. I found out around this time too. He doesn't want me to stay with him because he doesn't want his black kids to feel he chose Pakistani women over their black mother. He doesn't want to give them a complex, but he wants kids with me. So my mixed race Pakistani black kids will stay separately, okay? What a culture. That won't give them a complex, right? Nah. After this, I shriveled up. I couldn't believe I didn't follow the red flags, and I was being so stupid to trust this guy. I became withdrawn and literally in fear all the time. He told me the fact that I am now hesitating. Introducing him to my family shows that I am I am like his other Pakistani exes who were racist and kept him hidden. Not the fact that he deceived me, stole my virginity under false pretenses. Then I made it loud and clear when we first talked about being together. I said, I don't want any baby mama drama or find out a year later you are married with another wife. So you already saw it coming if you were accused. You knew it in the back of your mind. You always know the truth. You just don't want to admit it. Deep down, I probably saw the red flags and called it out, even without even knowing that a year later it's exactly what would happen. I showed him the boundary, decided to cross over it, and now I'm a racist, and I won't bring him to my family to give my mother and father more ammunition against me. Where later on I will be humiliated by them when I found out I am the side chick, so they can tell me, see, you're not worth shit. Even your man was staying in a different home. You are all alone. Meanwhile, your grandmother was what? Was the third wife living in the same house with the second wife, right? But that's what you're worried about. While this was going on, this dude even has a bullshit YouTube channel. While I was slipping away, he put out this video clearly aimed at me. He also has a Facebook page where he pretends a woman runs from him. It's a black consciousness page. All right, wait a minute. But it's him running it. Okay, wait a minute, hold on. Let me see this link. I mean, I'm way into this anyway. I'm already just an hour into it anyway. Might as well look at the link. Niggers keep away from our Arab, Asian, Muslim women. Oh, I know this guy. I've seen this. Our only ajr is your respect. Oh, this guy's nuts. Oh, yeah, this is 16 minutes. I can't run through a 16-minute video. Yeah, I watched this because I've seen part of this. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the, I wish I could go back and forth to show you the screen now. Are there comments? Yeah, there's not that many comments. There's only a few. Oh, wait a minute, this one has 10 surprise. Sir, all right, these are the comments on the page. Sir, I'm Arab or Semitic. If you want to be more racist towards me, black people have big genitals, and I don't want my sister or daughter to suffer. Only black women can handle this due to their big vaginas. Sorry, that's not racism. These are facts and fears towards blacks. Okay, he replies. I guess he's going under Islamic Action TV. And he's in full Islamic garb, too. Please explain biologically what evidence you have for the size of vaginas of differing females. Plus, semi or semite means, I told you it was about dick size. I told you. Not arguing, just asking the question. Somebody else. White women can handle it because they have the biggest vaginas. White women fuck more black men than black men do. All right, this is just a crazy pay. All right, I saw part of it. I know this guy. Oh, wow, small world. He also has a Facebook page, which he pretends a woman runs for him. It's a black consciousness page, but it's him running it. It's so obvious it's him because each time he messaged me on Messenger, his mobile number came up from that account, even though apparently he's not even on it. And he was pretending to be a woman, sending me a message introducing herself. He hates women deep down. It's so obvious he hates them so much. He wants to be them because he was probably cuckolded by a woman. And you know what? I think my original son-husband cuckold video was about a Muslim guy. was about a Muslim guy. I'm almost positive. I could be wrong. I'm telling you, these guys are cucks deep down. These guys are cuckolds deep down. He hates women deep down. It's so obvious. He hates them so much. He wants to be them. His father was dropping his dick in every pussy he saw and ended up cheating on his wife openly. This dude is the spitting image of his father. And when he left, his mother took all the anger out on him. Even his mother would make him, her son that I was with, bathe her, dress her, rub powder on her naked, put her bra and panties on. I said, a son husband. Layla, you're not even, you're not unique in this. There's so many of you like this. She is fully capable of doing these things herself, and even her daughter that could help her. But she made him do it. She made him sleep with her in the same bed, and she would hold on to him. I guarantee you she did more than that he didn't disclose, but it's so obvious. Just before my brother stopped talking to me over my mother, I was going through all this shit. I hit the realization that I had once again been sexually abused by him because he took it under lies. And he knew that I had known about his secret wife. I wouldn't have touched him with a 10-foot pole. Every single day for months, he would I would cry myself to sleep, covering my mouth, muffling my voice like I'd been trained to as a kid. For those 8 months, I didn't leave the house. It was so hard to get up and take a shower. I felt dirty in my soul. I stayed in bed crying my eyes out. I couldn't get over how much my brother had changed. I had zero male support around me because they're not men. They're all women in men's bodies. They're all son, husband, cuckolds. You're not surrounded by men. For anything, I was this kid that when other people yelled at, I fought his battles. When my father kicked him out of the house, he spent the night at the Salvation Army, and I was the one trying to fix everything. My mom loved seeing me upset over this. Aside from my childhood molestation, I was also sexually attacked by an uncle when I was in my 20s. All these sexual abusers in your family, and you're telling me your mother, nobody knew. You're just a part of it. You're just a part of your narcissistic family sexual abuse. You need to understand that, and they knew it. He tried to kiss me and bit my arm when I tried to get away. My middle brother knew all this. He heard my uncle confess it on the phone. Guess what? He hangs out with the uncle like nothing happened because it's cultural. I can't keep stating this to you. It's cultural. Laughs, jokes, goes in the car with him, etc. And every time he does, it makes my heart burn. He ignored me for nothing for 8 months, and even after 8 months, when I got excited for him getting married, I initiated contact and spoke to him. A few weeks later, he cut me off again over something so stupid. You should have been cutting them out. Why are they cutting you out? You should have been cutting them out. I asked him to send a YouTube video to our younger cousin on WhatsApp for me, and he began having an attitude saying, I need to watch it before I send it. If I like it, then I'll send it. Like I was some untrustworthy kid. I didn't even know what to say. Because you're untrustworthy because you won't go along with the rape. They don't know if you're going to expose them to somebody who can really fuck them over in their minds. That's why you're untrustworthy. I didn't even know what to say. The next day, he went back to the awkward silences. I walk in the room, he walks out. It was like he knew he could get to me now. He could trigger a reaction, just like my ex. Talk, and then disappear for a month. No talk. I got so upset I started crying in front of my mother, saying I have no male support. No one. She got up saying, Don't you feel sorry, me? Look how much I go through. And you have the audacity to cry in front of me. She went upstairs running. She went running upstairs and told my brother I was crying. My brother didn't even flinch, knowing full well I was crying over him downstairs. That night, run to your son, husband. That night I cried myself to sleep. I woke up and couldn't see in my left eye. I began panicking. Everything was cloudy. After 8 months, I left the house to go to the hospital. The doctors there began to panic. They saw my nerves in my left eye were inflamed, and they gave me steroid. They said they were shocked how bad my eyes were and told me I had uveitis, but no idea why. Blood work was done showing no connection. My mother began to garner sympathy for herself. The fact that I had done this to myself was a bigger reason I was a failure. I stopped going out, socializing, and became a recluse. It was bound to happen. A day later, she forced my brother to come speak to me because I had stopped speaking to everyone. And because she needs to use me and my energy, she knew the only way to get us all together in one room where she can use me as bait to gaslight me was to gaslight with me there. He didn't come when he knew I was crying downstairs. I came when mom forced him. The more I realized how much power I'd given these people, the more angrier I feel at myself. The more I am beginning to connect the dots. I confronted my mother about her narcissistic behavior. She said, "Layla, I can never speak to you. Each time I do, the words don't come out right, and you make me nervous." No, it's the fact that I catch her lying and confront it. She said, "Look at your brother. I can say whatever I want to him. I share my deeper secrets with him and make him feel comfortable enough to do that. But with you, no way, because you're going to expose their abuse." She always uses this little speech comparing us and differentiating between us, that he is much better than I because he is nicer to her. My brother behind closed doors would agree with me that my mother was having our youngest brother beaten and abused by our dad was evil, that my mother caused many other bad things to happen. But around her, he is siding with her. He is on both sides of the fence and always argues with her. That day, I confronted her on how she has driven her youngest sister to a mental breakdown by nitpicking about her marriage. How she put my youngest brother, who is epileptic, and autistic, on cheap homeopathic remedies that made him more depressed and consider suicide when I warned her for months that homeopath is stupid and he doesn't know shit. No one listened to me until my brother himself said, "I'm not taking this shit anymore," and he realized it was making him worse. I was not the only one fighting him. And now as we were eating, she was yelling at the golden child for drinking Pepsi, saying how much sugar it has in it. When I confronted her, I stood up for him, saying, "Why are you picking on him? He doesn't drink it every day. We are ordering food and he has a class. Why are you nitpicking everything?" He was quiet. I walked out of the room. I could feel her do something as I walked out. It triggered him. He immediately began downplaying everything and embarrassing me using sarcastic remarks, saying, "You two, mother and daughter, should be in a soap opera." I walked out of the room and he followed me upstairs, asking what's up. I said, "Why do you always downplay everything?" He said, "What's the point? She's never going to change. Look at your relationship with her. I've noticed all you do is blame her and dad for our younger brother's problems. You need to focus on yourself instead of being fixated on them." Then he began repeating her famous lines to me and her never have any problems. She confides in me about everything. It's only you she finds hard to talk to. Why is that? Why is everyone she can speak to about anything? It's just you. You need to be more like me. Why is everybody still living at home? That's the gaslighting. Like, yeah, I know what you're saying is right, but if he thinks she's around, he's gonna put out what she wants to hear. I said, "No, I don't. That's your opinion." Arguing at this point is meaningless. Your only answer, Layla, is to get far away. Cut them off. Why are they cutting you off? You need to cut them off. He yelled, "No, it's a fact. You need to be more like me." When he yelled at me, he looked and reminded me so much of my dad to have a grown man yell at me. It was like I got slapped. I could feel myself go bright red and the words wouldn't come out of my throat to even reply. He stormed out. After this, I just kept my door locked and my mom would come in and I would ignore her. She would say, I didn't do anything. Why aren't you talking to me? Why are you punishing me? Look at how much I go through with my autistic son, and now you're going to blame me. Don't you feel sorry for me? I ignored her because physically the words were getting stuck in my throat. My throat now dried each time she entered the room and tried to engage me. Because what's the point? It's going nowhere. This has never happened before. All I would do is think about killing myself. My brother knew I was having suicidal thoughts. I had told him months ago. I kept thinking, should I drink a bottle of bleach? What if I end up really sick at the hospital? If I pop pills, I could fall asleep forever. And immediately I would think, what if that's what they want all along? My mother and father would say, see, it wasn't me. She was suicidal anyway. Probably. And it would make all their problems of you exposing them of all their sexual abuse go away, be buried with you. When I ignored her, she forced me to she forced my brother to come in like he's your father and you're all adults in your 30s. He came into my room and my mother said, look, you two need to fix this situation. My brother said to her, nothing happened. He was in my room talking to her like I'm not even fucking there. And on top of that, he says nothing even happened. That's the same shit she and my dad used to say when they used to beat us. And the next day we would hide and cry and they would react with, why are you upset? Nothing happened. He turned into my father and mother and doesn't even see it. Well, God's telling you nothing happened and you're not listening. I didn't react. The next day he ordered some food and walked by me saying, there's food in the other room if you want it. I didn't react. That was 2 weeks ago. Jesus, you're still there because they're afraid you're going to expose them. I overheard him and my mother 2 days ago talking in the living room. Their little bullshit creating corner talking about me. He's getting married in a few weeks, and my mother was saying to him, I will never forgive Layla for what she has done. It's your wedding. I have been waiting for this day forever. We should be planning things all excited, etc. And she isn't even talking to us. I birthed her, but it's for what she has done. It's your wedding. I have been waiting this day forever. We shouldn't be planning things all excited, and she isn't even talking to us. Here's my question. Is she going to walk him down the aisle and give him away? I birthed her, but it's like she doesn't have a single drop of my DNA inside her. She's nothing like me. One would only hope. What's your fiance going to feel when she finds out your sister doesn't even speak to you, your in-laws, the family? That's so embarrassing. They're going to want to know why. See, this is them panicking over their exposure. That's why the questions are what's going to expose them. That's why they can repeatedly gaslight you and telling you nothing happened, because they don't want you telling other people. A little late for that. Yes, he said, yes, I know. I can't believe she's like this. The fact that I spoke to her and she ignored me, I will never forget this. See, and it's like a performance. They're doing this for your benefit, for you to hear it. Now, keep in mind, I spoke to him and he ignored me for 8 months over nothing. Yet his walking into my room and talking to my mother, not me, is evil, right? He proceeded to say, I guess I was delusional all along. Our brother and sister relationship was all a lie. I had hoped now that I was getting married, we would be really close and would always stay close. But it was all a lie. She hurt me so bad. I will never forget it. My mom asked, what did you say when you went upstairs to her that day? He said nothing. I didn't say anything. Nothing even happened. That's all they're doing. They're just getting their alibis straight. That's all this family is the narcissist the narcissist family getting their alibis straight. That's all this is. It's all just alibis. because they're fearful it's going to come out. That was the night he yelled at me saying I should be more like him and insist he did nothing wrong and now plays the victim just like my parents. He has fully morphed from the golden boy into the narcissist. They sit there in their pity party knowing I'm loading up on steroids trying to get my vision back, suffering from hormonal issues. And both of them know I am suicidal and are massaging, and they are massaging each other's wounds over me not acknowledging their presence when I walk into my room. Both of these people were forcing me to marry a pervert 2 years ago from Pakistan, knowing full well I caught him out. They didn't care about my happiness or if I have kids with this guy, what kids of a broken home that would be. My father would even say, I don't care if Layla gets married and comes back divorced the next day, as long as we can say she got married. Me prostituting my body for one night to that man was not worth them, as it was worth it to them, as long as they can say, at least I got married. Now I should be jumping for joy after how much shit they put me through, because they know you not getting married is a direct reflection on their abuse. My brother looked like the spit of my father, and he looked like the spitting image of my father, and he gets told it every single day too. And guess what, Ollie? The girl he's marrying looks exactly like my mother. Of course she does! Son, husband, marrying his mommy. She is the younger version of her, same features, same everything, face shape, everything. They look like my mom and dad together 30 years ago. And now he's acting like him, and she is like my mom. She has a manipulative streak. She conceals things. Like when he first proposed to her, she was engaged to a childhood friend. She was about to get married to him. But she hid it from my brother. Her fiance had family issues, so she broke the engagement and then came back to my brother and began flirting with him, saying that she always had a crush on him. My brother proposed again, and now they are engaged. These are telltale signs that she is on the rebound. When asked about her ex and how she feels about him, she says she hates him because he never stood up for her in front of her family. Was she in for a rude awakening? To me, the intensity of hate and love are the same. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. My ex, who had a secret wife, I don't hate him now. I hate his decisions, but in order for me to hate him, the situation will need active supply of energy. I am indifferent to him now. It took time, sure, but I can't be bothered to hate him. It's too exhausting. I don't feel anything about him. So for her wishing her ex fought for her says a lot. Ollie, I don't want to go to the wedding. I would have to be at the front pretending to be happy families. Doing this for my brother, I don't want to. At the same time, I know my goodness they will use that to play such victims. The past few weeks, I've not said anything really to my mother. I've been focused on my eyes and keep my space locked. She came in a few times poking my forehead, asking me to look up at her. I hit her hand to move it off me, and she said, please look at me. I will start crying. And then she started sniffling and walked out, saying she is so ill. God knows how much more ill she's going to get. And I sat there trying to sort my partial blindness out. I feel so amazing knowing these freaks already like this. It was them, not me. I don't know how to help my youngest brother. Maybe I can get out of the situation, but he will see the way out. My mother is so manipulative. She made him depend on her for everything. Any advice would be appreciated. Wow. Yeah, that's the end. Wow. Where you're at now is, and where your family is now is, your family, I think, realizes you're done. You're done, and that's why they're terrified. Obviously, your first concern is getting your vision back and getting healthy. That's got to be number one. Number two is, how are you getting out of that house and getting away from these people and getting them out permanently? I don't think there's anything you can do for your younger brother right now, not until you break away and break away permanently. Your brother's fiance is in for it. I mean, I would question whether or not you want to warn her or not. Maybe send her a link to this video. Who knows? But that could cause even more problems. Up to you. Up to you. You have to realize all of this, the behavior is cultural. But at the end of the rope here, your family realizes you're done with their shit. And now they fear the exposure. That's what's going on. Get well, get out, don't look back, however you need to do it. And as far as the wedding goes, well, if you were in hospital the night before the wedding, then it's kind of hard to go to a wedding if you're in the hospital, isn't it? So, thank you to Chiquita for the contribution. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Layla for sending me in your story. It is very involved and it was very, very well written. For a story this long, for me to have this much ease reading it out after an hour and 16 minutes is, you're a smart girl. You have options. There is no reason for you to be putting up with this shit. Understand your mother knew the abuse was going on the whole time. That's the point. And your family, by you getting married, they're just trying to bring in new players of abuse. New players of abuse. Because they want to keep it going and they want to keep it secret. And that's the shame. So, I hope this all helped. Thank you again. Thank you to everybody watching. If you made it an hour and 17 minutes, please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section for Layla below. And remember, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype chat, phone call, have a private video made, a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this, like Layla's story, who can't afford it because of the situation she's in, but needs to get it out, if you want to sponsor that, or you want to just sponsor the channel in general, help with equipment, keep the lights on, the rent paid, because this channel is funded and survives 100% by contributions from all of you. So, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box, and if you're still unclear, the instructional video link pops up on the screen at the end of this video to walk you through all of that. Please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't. Be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been The Narcissistic Resistance.